97.7 Dundalk FM. Town Talk.
I'm delighted to welcome into the studio Andy Hogg, who is a member of MOPOSOGS, Monaghan, and Susan Farrelly of AAEX, or Art as Exchange. And they're here to talk about their collaboration on the Awash with Colour project. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
We've been talking to a number of people over the last few weeks who have taken part in this project, but maybe for the benefit of listeners who are not familiar with it, Susan, you just tell us what it's all about?
Well, Andy has the notes. Maybe Andy.
Okay, well, Andy did.
This project came out of a collaboration between two groups. It's an art group in Dundalk, which I've forgotten the name of the art group.
Art as Exchange.
Art as Exchange, yeah. And MOPOSOGS from Monaghan. MOPOSOGS is Monaghan Poetry and Songwriters. And that's how the name comes about. And we've been meeting, I think it's been going for about 10 years. And poets, songwriters, people who write prose meet up every couple of weeks. And Darragh McGowan is the facilitator of that and has been from the start. So people come along, write songs, poetry, and other people, comment on it and support, give them hints and tips. And so, anyway, the art project, I think somebody suggested that there was a partnership would happen between art, so that one piece of art would inspire another between the two groups.
Yeah, and I know, I think it originally started as, it was an event for Culture Night, which was very successful. It was down in St. Helena's. Yeah. But it just seemed to take legs. I mean, and very, again, you've mentioned Darragh. It seems to be very much Darragh is a motivating person here. But it went from that one night event to a more continuous event. I know there is an exhibition coming up in Aontas.
In Thursday, 9th of December in Aontas.
Yeah.
There will be there'll be a performance as well from members of MOPOSOGS, and the art pieces will be displayed there.
And Art as Exchange, we work in existence for 5 years, so we wanted to do something that we like to extend and work with other groups in the community. And Kiva O'Dwyer came up with the concept of sharing work with others and generating response, because during lockdown we were in some ways isolated, but creatively we didn't have the same interaction. So it was really nice to get an opportunity to respond to something that maybe pushed you slightly out of your comfort zone. And I don't think Andy would have normally woken up and gone, today I'm going to write about a red coat. So sometimes it's good to be pushed out of your comfort zone in art and in writing.
That's exactly right. It's what you do when you write songs with people you collaborate. You're pushed out of your comfort zone, and you maybe come up with something that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Fresher.
Yeah.
Fresher.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what, again, different people from different disciplines. And today I have, an artist, and then you are, you're going to read a poem for us, Andy, but you are a musician, and that's what you normally do. And you've been partnered up, and, you have to sort of react to each other's work and come up with something. Yeah,
and you have to absorb it as well and consider it from different angles and then see what way you could do it justice.
I should say we were able to do the meetings online. We did Zoom meetings. That's how we did them. So, and we were able to see the art pieces. They were sent by email. So I was able to see Susan's painting, which when we couldn't meet up physically, I was able to see the piece and respond to it. So that's how the process happened.
Yeah.
I think mostly with Zoom meetings to begin with.
Susan's piece that you referred to is in the studio with us now, but unfortunately, we are radio, so we're going to have to ask our listeners to employ their imaginations. But it is, as you just mentioned, it's a red coat. To me, it looks of a certain vintage.
It's an age 8 coat, and I was born in 1974, so early 80s mass coat. So it's like the good coat that everybody had, particular female, when you were young growing up. And there's something about red in the Irish psyche. We use it as a colour for protection and strength, but I also kind of considered reinventing the archetype of the red coat, because in stories, Little Red Riding Hood, Schindler's List, there's a red coat, but they're all female victims. And I just thought this coat should have a little bit more presence and a bit more independent, but the fact that it's absent of a body allows you to maybe put yourself in the coat, and a lot of women who see it recognise and go, oh, I had a coat like that. And I think finding commonality or relatability in art is very important. To me, the coat takes me back in time. It's like a portal or a door.
And this, as you said, this is your coat from the 1970s that you still had.
Yes. And it was on a hanger floating about the studio for some reason. And one day I decided, it's actually what I would call a drawing with paint. Because the tool I used is oil bar, which looks like an adult size crayon made of oil paint. So it's drawn, and I think a crayon is a very childlike thing as well. So, but I tried to animate it and make it look a bit like it's been through the mill a little bit too, not too precious.
I'm just wondering, Susan, why did you still have your coat?
I don't know.
Did you realise at some stage
artists tend to collect and find and keep things that seem to have importance, but you don't know why. Like for another project in MOPOSOGS, I had 3 walnut shells in my handbag. And when I read the story, I went, the walnut shells. So for some reason, we get attracted to things. It's like the person who walks on the beach and picks up a stone. Why are we drawn to them? Why are we... And some things like this can become symbols for bigger conversations.
Talking about symbolism, Andy, because as Susan has just referred to, the Red Riding Hood, we had that in Schindler's List and what it has become to represent. So when you got the red coat first, did those things cross your head, and did you say, oh right, I need to move away from that, I need to find something different here?
Well, the way the project worked was we were only shown the picture of the art piece, and we were told nothing about it except the name, the red coat, which didn't tell me much. So I had to take an approach, and I thought, well, there could be a serious meaning behind that, but how would I ever know? So I just took the piece as I saw it, and I decided, the colour red, I couldn't comment on that because it's a popular colour, and I know that there's loads of meanings psychologically of the colour red, but I decided to just take the point of view of the coat. The coat has a simple point of view. I'm either worn or not worn, and so I took the point of view of the coat, and I thought I'll write the poem from the point of view of a coat, an inanimate object. So that's...
You chose to go with a poem as opposed to a song or a piece of music for any particular reason?
Well, a poem could always become a song. I think it's the same process in writing lyrics. Similar process, but I only managed to come up with a poem, really. So
yes,
Red Coat the musical might have a next.
Well, you never know that things can come out of you can build on things. Yeah.
Okay. I suppose we can't. Our listeners can't see the coat on air.
They do take pictures and put them on Facebook.
Yeah, and we will afterwards. But what they can do is they can listen to the coat, because I think, Andy, you have your poem there, and maybe you'd read it for us.
I have. Luckily, I've got it with me here, so I'll read it now.
Yeah.
Okay. The red coat. Once I had been worn with pride in moments of delight, but time moves on, and I became an object out of sight. The years go by, and here I am, still hanging on the door. My heart is ever filled with hope. Will I be worn once more? I was that shield, a welcome guard against the bitter breeze that whistled round the avenue in the winter freeze. Although I am no longer new, with pockets frayed and torn, I hang and wait upon the time when I am once more worn.
There we go. So you've anthropomorphized, isn't that what you call it?
Yes.
You've given it life and
a voice.
A voice, yeah. Which you are going to then get people thinking, that it's like, Toy Story. After Toy Story, I remember toys took on a completely different perspective for me. Was obviously I don't think that the toys sit there and talk to each other, but it was,
Yeah, I think it's poignant when you see a toy that was once loved and it's forgotten about. And a coat would be the same. Like it's once valued because it was new at one time, and then maybe it's put away, it's forgotten about.
But obviously in this instance it wasn't, and maybe that's why the coat gets to have its voice. It is still there, and wondering when it will be worn again, and it could be worn again by the looks of it.
I got my daughter to do a performance in it when on the eve of her turning 8, because 8 is the number on the tag St. Bernard, a great quality brand from the early 80s. But there's something about the number 8 for me. If you turn it on its side, it becomes the infinity symbol, and this cyclical nature of, I suppose, life. And my daughter is my first blood relation that I ever met. So there's something poignant in me being able to perpetuate a history through her. And for her to wear the coat seemed like something else and the future. And so...
I'm not even going to, because that you've just thrown something in there, and I think there's a completely different story as well behind this one, and probably not one we have time for, but that's an interesting comment there, Susan.
Always full of them.
Always full of them. What happens now? These pieces, obviously, they will be part of the exhibition. But with something like this now, Susan, eventually would someone be able to get their hands on it, or to?
Probably not the original.
No.
But a print.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I'm going to produce a print for Andy so it can haunt him for the rest of his life.
Lovely.
And when we do the show, it'll be interesting because it'll be a formal curated show where the work is going to be hanging and seen together. And that's a different version of the work again. And we'll all have to consider how best to display it. Yeah. And will I hang the coat on a wall beside Andy's poem and different things? So that'll be the next phase where we consider how to present the work to the public.
There are 92 pieces of original work, at least 92 pieces of original work, because each person who took part would have responded to a piece of work, but they'd also have created a piece of work for another artist to respond to. So between the two groups, we have about 92 or maybe 100 pieces of work. So how we'll display that, that's another day's work.
And they all explore similar themes. So maybe the coat speaks about identity, or the identity of the coat, and other pieces of work within the collection also explore identity. So they're similar conversations from different perspectives, and I think that's what makes art and a collaboration like this really interesting, because it's many voices and many different perspectives.
Can I ask you about both about then, the other side of it, because obviously your piece here, Susan, was what Andy was going to react to, but you were given something that you had to react to, and you mentioned was it the hazelnuts in your handbag? Or
yes, I got a piece of prose from Angela McCrossan, which was a story, and I had to respond producing an image which I turned into. It was a golden walnut, and there was one from Sad Songs About Growing Up, which was a song I had to respond to, which I did a painting of as well. And I can't remember. I don't know, his song was on YouTube.
Right, so it was on YouTube. That's that sort of narrows it down.
And Andy produced a song.
That's right. I produced a song, and basically the lyrics were what Sinead McCourt.
Yes.
Sinead produced a piece, painting, in response to that. So that was another piece of work, two pieces of work that one responded to the other. Yeah.
What's it like waiting for that response to your work, to see how somebody else has perceived it, or did you get what you expected, or
a surprise? I remember I read Andy's response in the car, and I got quite emotional. I was like, "Oh, this is great."
Emotional in a good way.
Yes.
I was very glad to hear that, actually, because an art piece like that, people do take their art seriously, and so you have to approach it with a certain amount of sincerity, even if I'm getting it wrong.
No, but what's wrong in art? There are no mistakes, really. It's so subjective, and I think anything that makes you see the world in a different way, or even see your own art in a different way, is a gift.
Yeah.
So I think the generosity of creative people has made this a very, I think, emotive project for us. And some of the Zooms were very emotional, and seeing people's responses, and very heartfelt. Yeah.
Was the whole that Zoom that landscape, was that all new to you when this started?
Me, no, not personally.
No,
I studied on it.
I've
Oh,
done Zoom meetings, so I was used to the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, but some people maybe had a bit of difficulty, but I think
But what I
everyone
think
got
what
into
was
it.
good, I felt we reclaimed it as a platform, and it wasn't just meetings about meetings with words and rectangle heads. You know, it was pictures, it was sound, it was performance. So in some ways I felt that we reclaimed it and subverted it as a platform, that it wasn't just a business tool anymore. We used it as a creative platform. And artists are good at that. Breaking the rules and making it into something improved.
It worked well, yeah. During
It
a
was
difficult time,
convenient.
it brought people together,
Yeah.
and it was.
And if you live in the far edge of Monaghan, you're not travelling an hour and a half to just have a meeting about a show and tell. So it saved an awful lot of time and created very fluid communication.
That was why the Culture Night event was very good, because we were actually able to meet up with people.
No, we saw the rest of people's bodies.
Yeah, that's right. Who we hadn't really spoken to about. All we had done is seen the art or the piece that we were to respond to.
Yeah.
But then we were actually able to meet the person, see the piece up close, and maybe discuss it with them as well, which was very.
It was
useful.
rich, yeah.
For anyone who actually was able to make it, it was really good. Yeah.
Rich is a good word. So has that continued? Have you been able to meet up, or are you still doing it remotely? And
I think we're sort of working in the margins at the minute and doing this sort of work, which is a different slant on how sharing the work with others. And I think it'll be a big push now to get everything nice and ready for Ianthus in December.
Yeah, I think as was mentioned, the project has got legs, so different things are happening. I believe there might be a website coming out of the project, and of course the exhibition in December in Ianthus, and probably other plans are being hatched as we speak.
Maybe for it to tour.
Yeah.
I did hear a murmuring about that as well, and I suppose it makes absolute sense, and particularly as because it's not just an exhibition. There's a performative aspect, and so
I think
it's a
there's
piece
an
of
opportunity
theatre, really,
for it to be used as a formula in other areas for people to engage and people from different creative areas of the community, and use it as a model for. There's no reason why we couldn't go down to Cork and do the same thing with people there. So I do think there's great potential in it, yeah.
Excellent stuff. Well, in the meantime, we're going to actually get a picture of your coat and put it up, because there's probably listeners there and they go, I wish I could see this red coat. What does it look like? And they got sort of images, so we will get a picture and put it up on our Facebook page, and you can go on there and have a look and see if it lives up to your expectations. But I have to say, it lives up to mine. It's fantastic. It really is. It's a beautiful piece of work, and accompanied by a beautiful piece of poetry. Andy Hogg of MOPOSOGS and Susan Farrelly of Art as Exchange, thank you so much for dropping in this morning.
Thanks, Marissa.
97.7 Dundalk FM. Town Talk.